Hello and welcome to day 3 of Awakening Possibilities. It's been amazing so far. The session we had in the morning was very powerful. We went very deep into our shadows, and I really appreciate you showing up for this event. And I am so grateful to have you all watching, also the ones that are watching the recordings. I know that we have more than 100 people and they keep registering every day. So you're watching the recordings, I appreciate you being here. And I'm so excited for the speakers that we have today. They're both amazing, and I have a very special place in my heart for both of them. And I want to start introducing the first speaker, and we're going to start sharing a little bit about her for you to get to know her. Vanessa Budah. She's amazing, really. And I feel like the reason why I wanted her to be here is because she has a lot of wisdom to share around life. And I was always so amazed by everything that she has created in her life. And I always want to know, what are you doing? And I feel like it's important that she shares all of this with you. And I'm going to say a little bit about her. Vanessa has a passion for helping people live their best lives and find their purpose. With over 15 years of experience in personal development, Vanessa has mastered the art of manifestation and saying yes to adventures. And that's totally her, which has led to a thriving career and lifestyle. And she has inspired countless individuals to step into their full potential and have fun doing so. And with anything else to say, I'm going to pin her here for her to share a little bit more about what I just said. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for even considering me to be
Of
one of your
course.
speakers. I was really because when Sabrina called me, she was like, "How do you feel about being on my online awakening possibilities?" And I was like, I'm not like a qualified coach or certified in anything, but I have lived. And she's like, "That's perfect. That's all I want from you." And funnily enough, like over the past years and really like in the past 6 months even, I found that that's why it was a bit of a joke at myself saying that I'm an unsolicited life coach. The truth is I'm not qualified, but I am qualified at my life, and I live a good life as well. And the unsolicited advice I give is actually through friends and people that I meet that are always like coming up to me, asking for advice, or like serendipitously coming back into my life, like friends who I haven't seen in like 2, 5, 10, 15 years. Randomly, we're all kind of getting back in contact with each other, and it just turns out we're all kind of going through the same thing at the moment and helping each other through it. And sometimes I feel like maybe I'm just a few steps ahead in some ways. When I say a few steps ahead, it's more like I've probably done a bit more of the work. I'm a little bit older or something, and so I've just kind of gone through the things and like cracked open myself, and it's enabled me to give other people advice as well, which I love, because that's really fulfilling my purpose.
Yes, and I love that. And I love that the way that you say things is really so refreshing, and it reminds us of just have that playfulness with ourselves and understand that saying yes to life and all these opportunities that present to us are very important. And can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this year, or the past 12 months, I made a conscious decision to just say yes to things, yes to adventure in particular. So that's what took me from Australia to Dubai, by saying yes. And in all honesty, I just kind of leaned into it. Hey, thanks, Chris. Like leaning into like the unknown, leaning into the fear, saying yes to the fear, yes to adversity, yes to not knowing what's around the corner, and letting go of that control. And in all honesty, life has really leveled up like tenfold. And it's not like everything's like roses here, but more often than not it is. But I've also had moments where I have been down on my knees crying because it's like, what have I just done? But at the same time, knowing that I'm here for a reason as well. So it's really like backing myself too. So there's just a lot of lessons that have been learned, particularly in the past 6 months, even, I would say. But the big thing about saying yes was, it really is like choosing yourself. I would say that's one of the biggest lessons. Like when you're consciously and subconsciously like choosing yourself, like it's a huge thing to do. sharing a story, like, one of the biggest things I've learned is the difference between like my conscious and subconscious as well, because consciously I'm like choosing myself. Yes, I'm doing this. Yes, I'm saying yes, doing that. But really, am I saying yes to myself, or am I saying yes to others? So that was like a big shift in me. And really it was through doing inner child work as well that I realized that although I was saying yes consciously, subconsciously I wasn't. And subconsciously I was actually abandoning myself. I was actually ghosting myself. I was actually putting other people's needs ahead of my own. And until it was starting to really reflect in my outer world. And when I say outer world, like I was starting to feel like I was really getting ghosted by guys, ghosted by career opportunities, just ghosted in general. And I just felt like people weren't choosing me. And that's because really I wasn't choosing myself. And so until it took me down on my knees crying, where I just like really released and I surrendered, and I was like, okay, you know what, like you got me, just there is a lesson in this, but also it really shot a rocket up me as well, because I knew I wasn't going to fail. I knew I had no option but to succeed. And then in all honesty, within 24 hours, everything shifted. I chose myself. And then all of a sudden, all these career opportunities started dropping into my lap, where I had my phone wouldn't stop ringing with people trying to catch up with me. And that's when I became really playful with it, where I was like, oh my God, like, why did I put so much guilt around choosing myself when it's actually really fun and playful to be in demand?
Yes. Wow. I love everything that you share, because it's like really important to understand what are we saying yes. And if we're really saying yes to ourselves and not because somebody else is telling us that we need to be certain way and trying to follow all these expectations. And I love that this is part of your title, right? Unsolicited life coach, mastering the art of youthful living. So
Yeah.
how do
So
you
the
what do you want to share about that? Mastering the art of youthful living.
so youthful living, not beautiful women. That's what it sounds like. But no, the youthful
Also,
living.
too, beautiful one.
It's really, again, it's just been the past year that all of a sudden everyone's just been asking, how old am I? Which normally wouldn't just ask someone that you've just met, but it comes up often. I'm actually 42 years old. A lot of people are really quite shocked by my age. They think I'm somewhere between age 25 to maybe 32, 34 years old. And I put that down to my positive mindset, but also like I am youthful, I feel youthful, therefore I am. And I guess that's what's reflecting. If and my body's really showing me this as well. Like if I'm feeling tired or unsure about something or stressed, I start to get white hair and I can see wrinkles. And the second I flip that mindset, then the white hair goes away, the wrinkles go away. And yeah, like the whole youthful part, like I just, I'm business, but I'm playful. That's how I approach my career, and that's actually how I approach life as well, minus the business part. And really it's just, finding joy in the little things. That's actually like a conscious effort that I do every morning, or like throughout the day as well. It's just about being grateful, really, like being grateful, being joyful for like the little things, like maybe it's like the smell of coffee in the morning, or like the ocean breeze in Bali, or something like that we forget about, because it's really easy to get stuck into the rat race and get lost in all the shit that's going on in the world and everything, and trying to like center yourself again. So that's a big part of it, I guess, to being playful, but also, if it feels right, just go for it. And that was the whole like saying yes to adventure as well, and not having judgment on yourself. For many years, I'd put judgment on myself. It was more like, what are other people going to think? If I do this, how are they going to react? And again, it's like overthinking things, when really it's actually just that simple. Just choose yourself. Like that's it. Be curious, choose yourself, have fun with life. It sounds so simple and so like basic, but that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. And also, it relates a lot with what we're talking today in the morning in our session. The theme of today is making peace with our shadows, right? And it's just the importance to understanding how to integrate those parts of yourself that also makes you who you are. And how do you think you can still choose yourself, or you chose this for you, knowing and accepting those parts of yourself that are your shadows? How do you learn to do this for you?
Yeah, it's, I sound so cliched, but honestly just really doing the work. And I know, like, you know, Rafaela mentioned like just starting to cry now and everything, which, you know, I think in the past when we cry, that's a bit of a dark shadow sort of thing. Like if I cry, it shows weakness or something. So it's actually accepting all parts of yourself, like dark and light. Like, of course, everyone wants to be playful and joyful and positive and this and that, but that's not reality. That's like a Disney cartoon. But, you know, the dark side, or the perceived dark side is the crying, is the vulnerability, is, you know, the unknown. And there's a lot of fear around that as well. So like really just, I guess, stepping into it and owning that part of yourself then leads you into the light. And when you can embrace and say yes to that dark side, that's actually when magic happens, because you let go of the control, because you're fearful of, you know, if I'm seen to be crying, if I'm seen to be this or that, like people are going to perceive me a certain way. At the end of the day, just do what's right for you. If you feel like being angry, if you feel like crying, whatever it is, just do it, because what I've realized is people are so focused on themselves. You know, I mean, there's people like us that, you know, that care for others too. But at the end of the day, like, you need to look after number one, and because how else are you going to fill your cup and give to others if you're not even giving to yourself? And back to like what I was saying, like when I was actually abandoning myself, essentially, like subconsciously, I was abandoning myself. Therefore, that's what was reflecting my outer world.
Yeah. Yeah. And that ties up with this question that I wanted to ask you. Like, what do you think is the biggest lesson for you in your life?
One of before I answer that, just something before I forget, it was just something that I learned recently. I don't know if you've heard of Ho'oponopono, which is like a Hawaiian, like I've actually been practicing a little bit of that. So Ho'oponopono, it's like a Hawaiian prayer almost, and it's for forgiveness. And I think it's really important. There's this story behind it by Dr. Hugh Len, who's a legend basically in Hawaii, and he used to work with like criminals in like you know, like mentally insane wards and everything. And he didn't touch them, he didn't speak to them, but he knew kind of enough of them, like their cases and everything. And then he'd just go home and he'd do the Ho'oponopono prayer on himself, which was essentially like healing and helping all the others around him as well, to the point that the ward closed down because he healed like all those criminals, and they were actually rehabilitated and were able to like go on, live a somewhat of a normal life again. But that Ho'oponopono, which I'll share in a second, it's really like healing a part of yourself and a life that, you know, essentially that you've created. So you're healing what has caused you so much pain, but that pain somewhat has been caused by yourself as well, by like your inner turmoil, which is again is reflecting in the outer world. So by doing this prayer, which is I can remember, it's please, what is it? Please, I'll have to write it down. Please forgive me.
I
I'm
love
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry. That's it. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. You say this to yourself, and it's out into the outer world. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you, and I love you. And you just say that to yourself. Share that for yourself, and then and also with the intention, I guess, of who it is in mind. And then I guess that's how you go on to like heal that part of yourself, and also in your 3D world too.
Yes, I love that. That's very powerful. I've used that a lot. I've used that practice and the importance of forgiving ourselves. And that's part of making peace with our shadows, what we were talking today.
Mm.
The importance of really being honest with ourselves and understand that anything that we did was not a mistake. It was an opportunity for us to grow and learn from ourselves a little deeper and having compassion for ourselves. And I feel like that what you just shared now is a very powerful way of starting connecting with that.
Yeah.
Rafaela says that she have come across this prayer lately too from my husband's friend in Glastonbury. I love it. I love
Yeah.
that.
And one of the, you know, one of the biggest lessons I've learned as well, or is a saying that I always remind myself and remind others as well, to get the most out of life, you need to decide what you want because the second you do decide what you want, that's when all the opportunities start to drop in. And that's when you actually allow yourself to like let go of the control and be open to the unknown and let go of that fear a little bit, because you're taking action orientated steps once you've made that conscious decision as well. When you've made that conscious decision and you take those steps each day to get to it, then that's when your subconscious starts to like kick in and it just and then you're open to the opportunities.
Yeah, 100%. And I know that you also you were sharing something with me, which is a powerful tool that you use too, that is called a template for life. And I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that.
Yes. So the template for life, it's a manifesting tool that I developed over 15 years ago, actually. Again, it was one of those, in my darkest moments, I came across this book called Ask and It's Given, just kind of like looking for an answer. And I came across this template. But over the years, I've kind of developed it into my own, based off my own experience. And so I've just kind of like added layers to it and have been able to help myself and then many friends and strangers along the way as well. Gosh, one woman in her 70s who had pretty much given up on life because she was like a recent widow, found, decided what she wanted, which was she wanted to be in a loving relationship again. And at age 70, she was like, I was having so much, she's like, I've never had so much sex in my life. Like all these guys were just like coming at her. And now she's in a really loving relationship. And the funny thing is I saw her like a year and a half ago. I met her a year and a half ago, actually. And when I met her then, she looked like a 70-year-old woman who had just lost her husband. And, a year later, I bumped into her. I didn't recognize her. She was a completely different person, full of life, vivacious. I remember she had like red lipstick and she was just so like, so high vibing. And again, it goes back to that, just be playful with it. Like, doing this template or, what you want for your future self or what you want to bring into the present moment, like be playful with it. And it really reflects through like from the inside out as well. But here's one I prepared earlier. Like if everyone's got their journal, I wrote, can everyone see that? This is what the template is. If I can, I'm trying to find the cap. There it is.
Yes.
So
yes.
the page, and I've sent this to Sabrina so she can share it with everyone. At the top of the page, you write down what your goal is, or your intention, and then just focus on one thing. Maybe it's like a loving relationship, maybe it's like career opportunities, and then but you have to be really specific about it. And then, there it is. Okay, and then you split your page into two. On the left-hand side, you would write from me. On the right-hand side, you'd write from the universe. And at the bottom, you would write thank you. And so basically it's all about, manifesting is all about like feeling into it and playing around with your quantum future self and bringing it into the present moment. So every time you're doing like a template for life, like if you visualize that you're planting a seed, so you're planting a seed for, let's say it's a loving relationship. You're planting the seed for a loving relationship, and you feel into it as though you're already in that relationship. And then from me, it's very like I am. I am loving, I am loyal, I am committed, etc. Like everything that you are in relationship to that goal. And then from the universe on the right-hand side, what does that look like? What does that feel like? There's mutual attraction, there's there's genuine commitment, there's a soul connection, etc. Like whatever it is that's going to make your heart sing in this loving relationship, like all these feelings that you're putting into it, you're watering that seed into fruition. And at the very end, you write thank you because it's already yours. And that is like a handshake with the universe because you've received. And in all honesty, like when it comes to career for me, like things will just like drop in within 24 hours because I'm open to it. Relationships take a bit longer, but I put that down to like divine timing as well. Like for me, I feel like I've been single for a reason because it enabled me to say yes to this opportunity in Dubai. And, like life has been like tenfold, which means that whoever steps into my life is going to be 10 times better than what I've had back in Australia. So, it's again, being playful with and having a sense of humor about life too.
Yeah, I love that, Vanessa. I love that template of life. I'm gonna send it on the email with a replay so they can actually add that in their life. I feel like it's very important to when we are calling in new things, to be open to receive and understand and feeling it like it's happening in real time, in the present moment. That's why you say thank you, because you're in this state of receiving. And just to finish, to wrap up and go with Chris, I just wanted to ask you, how do you think all these that you just share help you to create more opportunities? Like, for example, you just shared you had a huge opportunity to move to Dubai from Australia, and all these things started happening for you, right? Where you just started traveling more and creating all these amazing things that relate to exactly who you are. So how you started how all these things that you just shared created that for you?
It was really like the quote that I said, to get the most out of life, you need to decide what you want. Because in all honesty, the second I decided what I want and I was open to it and I wasn't cock blocking myself anymore because of fear of the unknown, that's when everything started to drop in. So when Dubai as an example, after spending 2.5 months in Europe, I decided I want to move overseas. And then I went back to Australia. 2 days later, I get a phone call. How do you feel about moving to Dubai? And it's because I decided I want to move overseas. Then the opportunity dropped in. Had he asked any earlier, I was really happy in Australia. I had no reason to leave. Like, why would I say yes to Dubai, a city that was unknown to me at the time, you know? So that's just like one example as well. That's just one example. But when you're really conscious of what you want, then you subconsciously start to become more aware of what's like dropping in around you as well. You'll start to notice the people that you're meeting, because you're high vibing and you're attracting the people that are meant to be on your path.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for sharing all that. It's just so inspiring to see that you are actually creating something so amazing, and knowing that you really, just by being in that state where you are, you really are attracting all these opportunities that you always wanted. And it's very inspiring, and I admire all that you do. And I just want people to be able to connect with you. How are ways that they can connect with you a little deeper?
Thank you. They're more than well on the template for life that I sent you. They can contact me via Instagram or like on WhatsApp. I do just want to add, sometimes we have those setbacks. Like, you're so clear, razor sharp on a picture of what you want and what you've manifested. If it's not working, and you've been brought down to your knees and you're crying and you feel like you're just like hitting a brick wall, it's because you're not meant to be going in that direction. And that's the moment to surrender. That's a word that I haven't used yet, actually, but surrender and letting go has been like huge for me. Because in that moment, that's when my life took a different course and took me in a different direction that I couldn't have possibly imagined, but always for the better. So sometimes we just need to just sit back, because it's this fine line of controlling the situation, but also letting go and just trusting the process, that it's all going to work out as it's supposed to, and better for you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love to close the interview that way, because surrendering and trust is part of everything, knowing that everything's working out for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thanks again.
much.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. And what I'm gonna do, I share on the chat your Instagram, but I'm also gonna share on the replay with a recap of everything that happened today for all the people that are watching the recording. And thank you so much, love, for being here and for staying a little late there in Dubai to be here for this session.
See you around, Chris.
Thank you so much. And I want to introduce now, and I just want to say first that Chris is amazing, and also he's so amazing that he is waking up at 2 a.m. just to be here from Bali. Wow, I have so much to say about Chris too. She's an amazing person, amazing human, so connected with his body, and I know he has a lot of wisdom that he can share with all of you. The reason why I wanted him to be here is because I feel how connected he is and how present he is. And I appreciate that so much. And I'm going to say more things about him right now. Chris Walker is a grateful student of yoga and lover of human connection who shares his passion through teaching yoga and human connection workshops and programs around the world. He following an more than 11-year career in the corporate world in which many of his successes were heavily driven and based on society's definition and image of success. The practice of yoga and subsequently teaching it saved his life. While only being slightly dramatic, this focus on success was a blocker to his journey towards self-connection, self-awareness, and ultimately self-acceptance. And if you're being you are, you're even living. And I want Chris to share a little more about his story before I keep sharing more of his bio, because I feel like he can tell you his own words, everything he's been through, his passion with yoga, and his connection with his body. That's why he's a human connection coach. And with anything else to say, welcome, Chris.
Super honored to be here. Yeah, to pick up. It's so funny. I've never heard my bio read back to me, and it's like, oh my, who are you talking about right now? So for me, this all comes to a really, really important word, and Vanessa said it at least one time, and it is vulnerability. So vulnerability is the single thing in which I viewed from the earliest ages in life as weakness. When I was 7 years old, I still 6 or 7. I remember that time in which you fall, or which I fell, and I banged my knee and I started crying and I'm like, "Where's mom, dad, help me?" And I remember in the most loving way, I have an amazing, loving father. He was like, "It's okay, Chris. Like, you don't need your mom. You know, we can be tough. We can get through this." In the most loving, supportive way that comment can get made. And I began to think in my head that, oh, if I'm a big boy, crying is not okay. I shouldn't cry if I'm a big boy. I shouldn't cry if I'm a tough boy. And I learned how to flex my body so that wherever the injury was, as a sports kid, you're always banging your shit up. How do you flex and stop the pain from reaching the place in which it gets to your eyes and you cry? And that was the unintentional usage of my body and the muscles that exist both in the brain and the physical body to suppress my emotions. And by suppressing my emotions, you are suppressing the thing in which you think the outside world is going to judge you by, that is going to literally cause you pain or wounding. And that is the essence of vulnerability. Vulnerability comes from the Latin word vulnare, which means to wound. So our ability to be vulnerable, as Vanessa was saying, to be ourselves, to be like, yo, this is me. And guess what? If I fully open me up and I fully show me and I am fully me, two things get unlocked. Number one thing that gets unlocked is my ability to, whatever the story that I've created, whatever the ultimate pain, whatever the ultimate wounding is, all of those things can happen. But by allowing or being open or having a capacity to be wounded, I unlock the greatest pleasures. I unlock the greatest happinesses, the greatest joys. If I hide from my vulnerability, if I suppress my vulnerability, if I don't fully show up in life, or for every amount that I'm editing myself to not fully be me, I'm putting a cap on the happinesses, the joys, the pleasures of life. So I look at it as I was giving myself an antidepressant. The antidepressant was protecting me from the judgment, protecting me from everybody that would take advantage of me. And that means I limited my ability to be happy, joyful, fully self-expressed. So I began to take the full spectrum of life and I began to shrink it and shrink it and shrink it. And it was through vulnerability, through showing up, through overcoming a lot of shame in my life that I was able to find a peace and a confidence in being me.
Oh my God, so much wisdom in that. And I love that you share that, because it's exactly a story that I share about myself today when we're talking about making peace with our shadows, and how I also did the same thing, right? And we tend to do that when we feel that we're alone and we have to be a certain way, because feeling too much is not safe, right? We create that story. And I want to ask you a little bit with what you're sharing, how being vulnerable and opening yourself and showing up for yourself changed how your life started developing for you.
So we're a human. We feel. That's one of our senses. Like, I felt that. I feel the cold air coming in for me. I'm feeling. We are feeling beings. And one of the things that we yearn to feel is connection. And my opinion, one of the most beautiful connections to feel is love. The connection with our mother or our primary caregiver when we are a baby, when we don't know anything, we have no idea what exists outside of us, but we feel. So to feel for me is to be alive. So vulnerability is giving myself permission to fully feel. And I literally know the first act, what I believe in my entire life of being vulnerable was I was in the rolling iteration of my rock bottom. I'm not sure what bottom of what trough I was at, but this was a couple year period, and I had just started teaching yoga. I had actually probably hit my like an upswing before I went down to the next bottom, but I had found the essence of what I truly believed was the first glimmer of inner peace that I had ever experienced in my life. To really feel, in yoga we call it our Atman, our true self. I had felt that, and it was actually my first 2 months in Bali. I decided to leave Bali. I booked a one-way ticket to Paris. I rewrote my wedding vows and read Daring Greatly cover to cover on the plane ride to Paris. And I was like sleeping 3 hours a night. I was so sensational. I was just like, it was like, I was like high, like I don't, what is this bullshit being high on life? Like, no, I can be high. I know exactly what I can get high on, and life is not one of them. I was high on fucking life, pardon my language. And oh my God, it was like crazy. And in the most vulnerable act, I reproposed to my ex-wife, or now ex-wife, butt naked. And it was just like, I was like bearing it all. And she said no. And I knew she was going to say yes until we really were leading up, and probably 2 days before, like in my heart, I'm like, she can say that it's not over, that she hasn't closed the door, but I think it is. But I did all of this not to get the result. And I really truly embraced the fact that, like, holy shit, I haven't felt this much in my entire life. So this is going to suck. I'm going to get shit on. I'm going to go face down in the mud, but I am feeling right now. And holy shit, feeling, it doesn't always feel great, but feeling is way, way better than not feeling.
Yeah, wow, so powerful what you just shared. And is the one of the reasons why I feel that you are so magnetic, because feeling gives you the opportunity to be connected with your body, right? With your human body, and understand that there's a reason why you're feeling that way. And you allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to open that door in yourself and know that you are allowed to feel and you're safe in that space. And following with that story, what opened up for you? Like, how do you started connecting more with your body, and how yoga helped you in this journey as well?
So I think yoga, and it's, how much time do you have? Like, I literally have, I've recorded like 8 hours of podcasts on this answer. So I'm going to try to like simplify it. But I think for me, you might not be able to tell by the little Zoom box, but I'm a 6'5", so nearly a 2 meter, 210 pound or 95 kilo mixed race man. Yoga is not for me. Ain't nobody saying in my hood, yo, let's go do yoga. So let alone when I was a kid, let alone when I was 32 or 33 years old. So stepping onto the mat was an act of vulnerability when I didn't know that that was an act of vulnerability. I just wanted to get more flexible, and I hurt myself, and I was at a time in which I needed to add some health aspects to life. So just being there was vulnerable before I knew what vulnerability was. Didn't even really know what the word was really fully. So that ability to do that, and then to be like, oh, this is a thing that supports me, even though I think other people are going to judge me for it, allowed me to keep doing it. I also quit drinking and I quit eating meat when I was at my first rock bottom, this was first trough in this rolling. I'm in London in the most toxic drinking culture that might exist in corporate culture on this planet. There are a few of them, but allowing myself to stand by this principle of doing a thing that I don't think I was made to do in yoga, drinking in a drinking culture, not eating meat in a meat and eat culture, and being shit on. I'm like, yo, fuck you, peer pressure. It took me to 33, but I was like, there's no peer pressure anymore if I can handle this. And then as I embraced the fullness that is yoga, it just keeps unfolding different truths. And the essence of yoga, which is somewhere in this bio that I'm sure I sent you, the essence of yoga isn't stretch and be flexible and do the things on the rubber mat. It is to connect to Atman, our true self, this us that exists on the inside before we were conditioned by, maybe in the best way, our parents and society and family and friends. Connect to this true inner self to allow a deeper connection to a Brahman, everything else that exists around us. And so that starts by the vulnerable act of being okay, taking the armor off and taking the masks off, stepping to this tender edge that's being vulnerable and showing up. And that started on the mat. It continues on the mat. It continues on how I teach on the mat. And then it continues of how I show up off the mat and how I teach people about the true yoga, this practice of living life, connecting to yourself and others just in and around the world, wherever you are.
Yes, yes. And that's one of the reasons why, well, to share with all the ones that are watching this and the ones that are live, I met Chris in Egypt, and he was guiding through like this process of connecting with our body, because it was yoga, but what I felt with him is just how connected he was with every cell in his body, every muscle, and the importance of moving that energy in our body. And I feel like that's part of what we were talking today, right? Like making peace with our shadows is also moving energy that is stuck in our body, moving all the energy that is in there for us to be able to open ourselves to receive more. And I feel like that's like very related to what you were saying, because I feel like you started connecting with really the part of yourself that makes you who you are, no matter what others tells you around you, what others tell you that you should be. And I want to ask you, how do you think that started attracting more opportunities? Because this whole event is about that, right? How do we awake opportunities in our life? Like, how do you think this and connecting with yourself and just being true to who you are is starting attracting more opportunities for you?
So touching back on that yearningness, that for connection, love, attachment, those are things that are hardwired, coded for us as a human being. It is only when we can only attract the best, the truest, the most authentic external connections when we are fully being ourselves. So if I think, okay, I'm seeing Sabrina and I'm seeing Vanessa on the phone, I'm like, okay, what do I have to do so that they will accept me? Okay, how do I edit myself right now? All right, this is now, I think I'm gonna play the right Chris so that they like me. Who the fuck am I? And guess what? Best case, they're super authentic individuals and they're like, yeah, that dude's full of shit. Who is he? And then there's no opportunity. Really, if an opportunity comes, that means they were either gullible or they weren't really connected to themselves. But people that are yearning for authentic connection and the opportunities that arise with that see you being you, and then immediately one of two things happen when you're fully self-expressed, whatever you mean. A person's going to say, not my jam or my jam. And the person that says not my jam, in my heart, and why it was closed and I wanted to protect myself for so long, is I wanted to please everybody. I would never have admitted that I was a people pleaser, but I was a low-key people pleaser. I'm like, I don't want to be an asshole. I want everybody to like me. Come on, like, I have a good heart. Shouldn't everyone want to like me? So I edited myself based on what I thought an environment needed. I put a mask on. I used to think my superpower was being a chameleon. But what I realized is, if I am me and it doesn't vibe with you, boom. We call that in sales, when I used to be in sales, that's called a quick qualified out. It's all good. You don't have to like me. Go do you and find someone else. But if I am me and then somebody does connect with me, it's like, we know that's a jam. That's locked because they saw me for who I am in my fullest. And what you were also alluding to when you talked about energy, there's a couple different yoga terms depending on what schools you're from. But we have chi or we have prana, this life force energy that exists within us. And energy it literally has a vibration. It has a magnetic pole. There is something that is emitting from us. So when somebody says, oh, you have great energy, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means. But then I'm like, yes, we do. This is what exists. So allowing yourself to be at peace and at love and be open in our heart, it emits something, and that connection literally goes out. Not to get in the non-woo-woo sense, literally physics, principles of physics tell us there's a law of conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. So every thought we have, every movement we have, every beat of our heart, the energy exists within us and it goes somewhere. And the more open that is, the more pure, beautiful, flowing, whatever you want to say, attracts the things. I want to say, Vanessa might have said manifestation and prayer. We are putting these energies that we're creating between our freaking ears and our consciousness, and they're going out. And I believe when we are super open, when we're flowing from the heart and we're truly us, then that's how we get connected to the things that match who we truly are versus the opportunities of, like, this. I think, like, I had jobs, they'd be multiple six figures. They didn't fill me up worth shit, but I was determined. I was stubborn. I was going to make those things work. And now it's just like the opportunities, I will actually just be super honest. I feel like I just did the next opening up and uncracking of Chris Walker to actually allow me to be fully open in my heart space. And the opportunities that I know are coming maybe haven't been coming because there's some, and I hate using this word. Oh, I hate it. But I had to do the work and to allow myself to be in this space, to be like, this version of Chris, I want the opportunities that are for this version of me, because that's the jam. That's what I'm looking for. But I haven't gotten to that point because there was some shit that I had to go through.
Yeah. And it's very important that you touch on that, because I feel like we hear so many things around us and there's so much contamination, there's so much noise, right? But by you being authentic to who you are, you're going to understand what resonates with you and you're going to make it your own. And I feel like everything that I'm sharing, everything that everyone's sharing, is always going to be based on our own experience. And I don't think that anyone has the absolute truth, as long as it's yours, as long as it's what makes sense for you, and as long as it works for you. And that's going to create that expansion that you're talking about, and that magnetism of attracting the things that are meant to be for you. And by actually allowing yourself to go deep enough to understand that we're not perfect and we're never going to be perfect, and we don't have to follow this expectation that society tells us we need to follow in order to be a certain way, because who we are is enough and it's a gift. That's the gift that we have, being who we are. And that's going to allow us to really be open, like Chris, like when you talk, you have this way of being magnetic because you have an open heart and you're sharing from your heart. And I appreciate that a lot. And is there anything else that you want to add before we start wrapping up the conversation?
I would lots. I will say a few different things to kind of wrap this up, and these are I'll just call them, these are the highlights, these are bullet points that I just would love to just drop in before we close it up. One of the foundationally pivotal parts of my life was the ability to be at peace being alone. I separated from my ex-wife. I started doing the dating thing. Let's download all these apps that all these people have been talking about. And a woman asked me on a date, she said, I don't think you're that interested in me. And I was like, inner monologue, not outer monologue. Maybe you're right. Maybe yeah, you're attractive, and we're going to do this dating thing enough times so that we have sex, and if that feels good, we're going to keep doing that. And I'm like, it's like, why are you on this date? Why are you dating? Why have you been on any of these dates? And I spent like a solid 6+ months in London not dating. I worked, I did yoga, and I spent time by myself. I walked the streets of London. I just smoked my spliff, look at street art, live music, eat my donuts. And through finding a peace at being alone, if we can brave the wilderness alone, if we can, not always have to be, if we can choose to be a lone wolf, then we can be the greatest pack wolf. So to truly belong, we have to either have had to, or we have to know in our heart that we can brave the wilderness alone, because there is what can be a very challenging connection between authenticity and attachment. As our yearningness to be attached, to belong, to be a part of the community rises, our authenticity can go lower. So can we keep authenticity high and allow moments of attachment to be like, lone wolf, all good. Pack wolf, all good. Authenticity staying high all the time, to not sacrifice authenticity, to be attached, to be connected. And pause. My last component that I will share is I say three most is an unnecessary added word, but it's most in my men right now. Self-awareness comes first. To be aware of self, to connect to self, to see the conditioning, the bullshit, the lies, the whatever has caused us creating unknown, unconscious, or subconscious masks or armor, to see who we really are. Step one. To accept that self. Step two. Not to say that we love all of it, or we want all of it, or we don't yearn to change or evolve, but we have to accept what is here now. Can I love the fullness and the wholeness of who I am in this moment? Then from that place, we can find self-mastery. We can make the edits, we can set the intentions, we can commit to the things to allow ourselves to be the highest self, if that's the word you want to use, the best me, whatever it is. But we have to be aware of our true self. We have to accept who we are in this moment to then begin to master it. Then we master it from a place of like, I am enough, and this is what I yearn to be, and I'm going to put effort into that, versus I'm not enough, and if I do this thing, then I'll be enough. So that is, I'll leave that as my final mic drop.
I love that as the final drop, the final piece of wisdom. And I also want to ask you how people can connect with you. I have your Instagram here that I'm going to drop on the chat, but is there other ways? I know that you have a podcast as well. I don't know if you want to share about that.
Oh man, chris.walker.official is my Instagram. My podcast is on Instagram. It is the Being Human podcast. It's currently Being Human with Chris Walker, but the name might be switching to the Being Human podcast. That's its own story. Working on that. And then you can find me it's probably backwards, but you can find me at walker-way.com. So the essence of all of my work and then thinking about finding our true self, it's like I teach the Walker way. The only way that I know is the Walker way. Now, I didn't invent the Walker way, but it is how Chris Walker's brain and his soul, the way that they figured it out. And there are teachers, there are books, there's podcasts, there's all sorts of things that I've absorbed to figure out how to walk my way. So whether it's yoga, whether it's personal development, whether it's business, intimate relationships, whatever the thing that we're struggling with is, or you're struggling with is, or that you want to find, you're like, I can teach you the Walker way. I can show you the Walker way to help support you to walk your way. And that is what I think the most powerful thing is. How can you walk your way any given day?
I love that, Chris. And I love how even that, you play with the word of your last name to understand that this is your name, your way of walking your life, Walker, right? And I'm so grateful for everything that you share. And please, yes, anyone that want to connect with Chris, I feel is very important that if you resonate with anything that he's saying, is because you really there's something in you that is telling you that you want to connect with him. With Vanessa as well, she shares so much wisdom, and I'm just so grateful to have you both. I'm gonna pin Vanessa for the three of us to say bye in the recording, and to thank you all for being here and allow us to share our wisdom, our piece of our own experience with all of you. Chris, Vanessa, thank you so much. I love you both so much, and I'm so happy that you were here and you were able to share this day, the third day, which is for me one of the most important because it's the middle of the event, with all my community, and I appreciate you deeply. Thank you. Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a good night or day.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going back to bed. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Rafaela. Thank you.